Syberia 3 is the much anticipated third part of the popular adventure duology, with the first two parts of the series having been released in 2002 and 2004 respectively. The two first Syberia games left a lasting impression on gamers. The fact that the third part was released 13 years after the second is a testament to the series' popularity and timelessness. Syberia's success can be mostly attributed to one man, the Belgian comic artist Benoit Sokal, who gave birth to an incredibly imaginative and dreamlike world. That same artist returns to the world that he created, giving us another one of Kate Walker's surreal adventures. With so many years having passed after the last game came out, and given the fact that the first two games are now considered classic representatives of the genre, the bar was definitely set very high for the Belgian artist. Syberia's world cannot be placed neither in space nor in time. Some of its plot elements, the most distinctive of which being the existence of mobile phones, suggest that it takes place in our time. However, everything else makes it clear that it's an alternative universe, filled with anachronisms and surreal elements. The game starts with Kate Walker unconscious and dying in a frozen wasteland. Fortunately for her, a Yukol caravan that happens to pass by tracks her down and saves her. The Yukol shaman fails to heal her despite her best efforts, so 3 months later they drop her at a clinic in the town of Valsambor. When she comes to, Kate discovers that the country's regime is hell-bent on stopping the Yukol migration, so she decides to help them reach their destination. This decision of hers will pit her against a myriad of challenges, while in the course of her adventures she'll meet dozens of interesting people, she'll lose new friends, but she'll also reunite with old ones. In Syberia 3, the mammoths have been replaced as the Yukol's symbiotic animal by the fictitious snow ostriches, so it is being made abundantly clear from the outset that the game has a surreal setting. What I really liked was that the Kafkaesque atmosphere which characterized the first game comes back with a vengeance in this one. The game's world is very dreamlike, with the motives and the decisions made by its various characters, including Kate, seeming weird or even irrational, just like in a dream. In our dreams we simply accept every surreal situation we find ourselves in, so we do the same in the equally surreal world of Syberia. The game's plot is split into 5 completely different areas, with a mini-climax taking place when we leave each one of them to go to the next. The fact that these areas are so different increases the game's variety, keeps the narrative intensity on a high level, and renews the gamer's interest for the plot. Personally, I was satisfied with the game's ending, even though it leaves some loose ends. The first 2 games of the series had 3-dimensional character models and 2-dimensional backgrounds. In Syberia 3, Microids dared to jump to a full 3D environment, following on the tracks of games such as Dreamfall and Broken Sword 3. The problem with full 3D environments, in regard to adventure games, is that they tend to disorient the gamer. This can make common inventory-based puzzles seem unfairly hard and incredibly annoying. In general, and according to my personal experience, adventure game developers find it really hard to manage 3D environments. For example, in Dreamfall, Funcom simply opted to omit puzzles entirely, essentially turning the game into an interactive story. Most developers simply choose the easy and lazy way of the so-called logical puzzles that were first introduced in Myst, which however are not linked to the plot at all. It's like you're playing the game, then it suddenly stops and asks you to solve some random puzzle before letting you go on, with the puzzle itself having no effect or consequence to the story itself. In Syberia 3, the game's designers chose to use Myst-like puzzles as well in order to challenge the player's analytical ability. However, with a major difference, that the Microids actually made a commendable and in my humble opinion successful effort to intertwine those puzzles with the plot, as well as with your garden variety, inventory and dialogue-based puzzles. As a consequence of this, Syberia 3's puzzles seem way more combinational and inspired when compared to those of other games of the genre. Thus, they are integrated naturally into the final outcome, giving us a more tight and seamless experience. That said, I must stress that I didn't find it especially hard to beat the game. The prevailing Myst-like puzzles are simple and logical, while most of the inventory-based puzzles are simply procedural. Even if you get stuck somewhere, you can find useful tips by talking to people or in the documents that you've picked up along the way. Personally, I only got stuck in the only 3 parts where the necessary items are not right next to the place where you need to solve the respective puzzle. Of course, this proves that if the game's developers underestimated how much a full 3D environment completely changes everything and simply dropped items all over the place, turning Syberia into a hidden object game, then they'd only succeed in frustrating and annoying the gamer. The first 2 games' graphics played an integral part in their being considered as classics. Syberia 3 proudly carries the torch, placing us in a beautiful and incredibly atmospheric world. I admit that I thought it strange when I first saw that the game took up almost 40 GB in my hard drive. After having finished the game, however, it seems perfectly logical to me. Syberia's numerous environments are incredibly detailed and varied, bringing its world to life in a way that I've never seen before in an adventure game. The character models are also extremely detailed and original, with their faces matching their personalities perfectly. Especially Kate's model is beautiful, while her facial expressions are more realistic than anything I've ever seen in an adventure game, including King Arthur's The Book of Unwritten Tales. Microids did a great job in the motion capturing department as well, since each character features plenty of realistic animations, with each and every one of them suited perfectly to each occasion. Unfortunately, the good news ends here. The game's performance can only be described as erratic, since its graphics, from a technical standpoint, certainly do not justify so many hiccups. The final result resembles a low frame rate, but it's actually some kind of weird jittery effect, which can affect Kate's movement, the camera's movement, or both. Since I've mentioned the camera, sometimes its placement and movement can be very disorienting, given the fact that many of the areas that we get to explore are quite large and maze-like. The less patient player is most likely to get discouraged very quickly. Of course, us old-timers are used to this orientation period which goes with most classic adventures. Microids have already released 2 patches so far, and I hope that they'll soon manage to solve most of these issues. Personally, after a couple of hours into the game, I was so immersed into it that its various technical issues and design flaws simply stopped bothering me at all. I know, however, that this won't be the case for everyone. For me, the game falls under the category of rare games, such as Life is Strange or King's Quest recent reboot, where the artistic aspect overcomes the game's lack of technical prowess. We talked about sights, now let's talk about sounds. First of all, Inon Zur's soundtrack is simply excellent, and complements the game's plot flawlessly. The various sound effects also help in making the overall outcome seem as realistic as possible. Unfortunately, I can't be equally generous with the voice acting, which is generally mediocre, with only a few exceptions, such as the actor who plays Captain Obo.
To what do I owe the honor of your presence at the table of the regrettably famous Captain Obo?
Some of the actors have been recycled more than they should, but the worst part is that some voices simply don't match the character models at all.
That proves nothing, Himmelherrgott! Hans would never have given this to...
I must confess that when I heard that Microids were working on the 3rd installment of the series, I had really low expectations for the outcome. When I first started the game, all its technical issues, in addition to the fact that I found it really hard to adjust to a non-point-and-click interface in an adventure game, made me believe that I was right to not expect much. Especially in the part where you search the drawer, I felt like I was playing Surgeon Simulator. After a while, however, Syberia 3 managed to win me over and give me a thrilling and moving experience worthy of its legacy. The 16 hours that it took me to beat the game is definitely a record duration for a modern adventure game. Unfortunately, Syberia 3's production values are found lacking when compared to AAA games of other genres. But it's still a very honest step towards the right direction. If it achieves the commercial success that it deserves, I'm sure that we'll see even better stuff from Microids and Sokal in the future. Besides, the game's ending leaves at least 2 very important loose ends. Syberia 3 also has an interactive story mode which should satisfy most casual players. If however you're a hardcore adventure game fan as am I would definitely recommend it.